There's a role a lot of people get assigned early in life, and nobody ever actually asks if they want it. The strong one. The one who stays calm when everyone else falls apart. The one people call at 2 a.m. because they know you'll pick up, and you'll have something wise to say, and you'll somehow hold it together even when the news is bad. It sounds like a compliment. It gets treated like one, too. But being the strong one has a cost that almost nobody talks about, because the whole job depends on making that cost invisible. Today, we're breaking down what that role actually takes from you, and why the strongest person in the room is often the loneliest one in it.
Let's start with what this actually looks like. Someone in your life is going through something hard. A breakup, a loss, a crisis. And almost automatically, you become the anchor. You ask the right questions, you stay calm while they cry, you have the advice ready before they've even finished explaining the problem. Everyone in the room, including the person struggling, quietly relaxes a little because you're there and you always seem to know what to do.
Later that night, alone, something different happens. All the calm you were holding for everyone else finally has nowhere left to go, and there's no version of you left to hold it. You don't call anyone. Calling someone would mean explaining that you, the strong one, are struggling too. And some part of you genuinely doesn't know how that conversation would even start.
This becomes the quiet architecture of your entire life. The family crisis? You handle it. The friend's breakup? You're the first call. The coworker having a meltdown at work somehow ends up crying in your office instead of anyone else's. You've become so reliably steady that people have stopped imagining you could be anything else. And somewhere along the way, you stopped imagining it too.
The confusing part comes when you actually try to be the one who needs something. You start to explain a hard week, and you watch the other person's face shift, slightly uncertain, slightly unequipped, because they've never seen you in this position before and don't quite know what to do with it. So you do what you always do. You make it smaller. You laugh it off. You say, "Anyway, enough about me," and ask them how they're doing instead, because that, at least, is a role you know how to play.
This isn't because you don't have needs. It's not because you're secretly fine and just being modest. What's actually happening is a specific pattern that gets built early, reinforced constantly, and almost never named. And once you see the shape of it, a lot of your exhaustion finally makes sense. The strong one role usually starts early, and it usually starts because it had to. Maybe you grew up in a house where a parent leaned on you emotionally before you were old enough for that weight. Maybe you were the oldest sibling who had to hold things together when the adults couldn't. Maybe you were simply the calm, capable kid in a chaotic environment, and calm became your currency, the thing that kept everyone, including you, a little safer. Here's the part that makes this so persistent. It worked. Being steady got you praised, relied on, needed. Your nervous system logged that as a successful strategy and kept it running long after the original circumstances that required it disappeared. Now, anytime someone near you shows distress, that same old programming activates automatically, whether or not you actually have the capacity to hold it that day.
This creates a specific, lopsided kind of relationship. You become the container for everyone else's difficult emotions, but rarely the one whose container gets held in return. Not because people don't care about you. Most of them would, if they knew how. But you've trained the people around you, unintentionally, to see you as the source of stability, rather than someone who also needs it. And that training runs deep enough that even you sometimes forget it isn't the whole truth.
There's a real cost to maintaining this. Every time you suppress your own reaction to manage someone else's, you're spending genuine emotional and physiological resources, the same resources everyone else is allowed to spend openly. Over time, that constant suppression doesn't disappear. It accumulates, often showing up later as irritability, numbness, or a strange emptiness that seems to arrive for no obvious reason. Because the reason has been quietly building for years, one held back reaction at a time.
So how does this actually show up day to day? Here are the signs that the strong one role might be costing you more than anyone, including you, has noticed.
You become calm automatically, not by choice. The moment someone around you gets upset, your own emotions quietly step aside to make room for theirs, instantly and without a decision being made. This isn't emotional control in the healthy sense. It's a reflex that fires before you've even registered what you yourself are feeling.
You downplay your own problems before anyone else can react to them. You'll mention something hard and immediately soften it. It's not a big deal. I'm fine, really. Often before the other person has even had a chance to respond. You're managing their potential reaction before it happens. The same instinct that once kept a chaotic household calmer. Your hardest emotions only come out when you're completely alone. The tears, the anger, the overwhelm, none of it happens in front of anyone. It waits until the door is closed and no one needs you to be steady, which means the people closest to you often have no real idea how much you're actually carrying. Asking for help feels almost impossible, even when you clearly need it. You'll draft the message and delete it. You'll think about calling someone and decide against it. Not because you don't trust them, but because being on the receiving end of care feels unfamiliar enough to be uncomfortable, sometimes more uncomfortable than just handling it alone. When someone finally checks on you, you reassure them instead of letting them help. Someone notices you seem off and asks if you're okay, and your instinct is to comfort their concern rather than actually answer the question honestly. You end up taking care of them for worrying about you, which somehow puts you right back in the exact role you were trying to step out of. If several of these sounded familiar, this isn't a character trait you were simply born with. It's a role that was assigned to you, that worked well enough to become permanent, and that's been quietly running the show in every relationship since. And it keeps reinforcing itself in a very specific way. Every time you hold it together and someone thanks you for being so strong, that praise confirms the role is working, even as the private cost keeps growing underneath it. Nobody praises the invisible exhaustion. They only ever see the steady surface, which means the surface is the only part that ever gets rewarded. Practice being the one who's helped, on purpose, in low-stakes moments. Start small. Let a friend pick the restaurant because you're too tired to decide. Accept help carrying something you could technically carry yourself. These moments feel oddly uncomfortable at first, precisely because they're unfamiliar. But each one is a small piece of evidence that receiving doesn't cost you your role or your worth. Say the real answer before the reassuring one. When someone asks if you're okay, resist the urge to immediately comfort their concern. Try answering honestly first, even briefly, before softening it. Actually, today's been hard is a complete sentence. It doesn't need to be followed immediately by, but I'm fine, to be acceptable. Choose one person to be fully uncomposed with. You don't need everyone in your life to see the unedited version of you. You need at least one relationship where the strong one performance is allowed to stop completely, where you can be tired, upset, or uncertain without immediately managing how it lands. None of these principles ask you to abandon the strength that's genuinely part of who you are. They ask you to stop letting it be the only part anyone gets to see. Let's make this concrete. Picture someone getting a simple check-in text from a friend. Hey, you've seemed off lately. Everything okay? The old pattern would fire instantly. A quick, yeah, I'm good, just busy, case closed. This time,
they try something different.
They type, "Actually, it's been a rough couple weeks. Thanks for asking," and send it before they can talk themselves out of it. It feels strange, almost exposed, in a way that has nothing to do with the actual content of the message. A few minutes later, the friend replies with genuine warmth, asking what's going on, offering to talk. No disaster follows. No one is burdened beyond repair. The relationship simply, quietly, becomes a little more mutual than it was 5 minutes earlier. That small, honest text doesn't undo years of being the strong one, but it's a rep. The same kind of rep as every other small, uncomfortable moment where the feared consequence doesn't happen. Enough of those reps, over enough time, and the role starts to loosen its grip. Not because the strength disappears, but because it finally has company.
If any of this felt familiar, here's what's worth holding on to. Being strong for other people was never wrong, and it doesn't need to be undone completely. What's missing isn't your strength, it's permission for that strength to include you too. You were never meant to carry everyone's weight and none of your own. Somewhere along the way, that became the arrangement, quietly, without either side fully agreeing to it. And arrangements like that can be renegotiated, one honest moment at a time.
If this sounds familiar to you, share in the comments the moment you realized you'd become everyone's strong one and no one's soft place to land. You're not alone in carrying it. This video is intended for general educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional psychological consultation or therapy. If emotional exhaustion or difficulty asking for support is significantly affecting your daily life or well-being, consider speaking with a licensed mental health professional. If today's video gave you a little more clarity about your own mind, hit like and share it with someone who's always the one holding everyone else together. I'm Eco. Don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring the hidden corners of the mind together. Goodbye, and I'll see you next time.